Good morning to all of you. It's a pleasure to be back again for a second session. And today, our topic for discussion will be management of resources and technical institutes. And at the very outset, like I had earlier also an overview, what is in the toolkit for this session. First is to discuss the general scenario of our technical institutes as such, then certain definitions pertaining to resources and management, then the different types of resources required for the technical education system, and then we take a deeper look into it to know the status with regard to all these different resources. What is the present status? What thought should be given at the planning stage, and how to go about developing the resources. And again, after that will be the resources management to ensure that all the resources available to us are optimally utilized. And maybe consider also the action plan for implementation and what is the government initiative which the government of India has taken out. Now, what we had in the past were the brick and mortar institutes, which were essentially concrete or made of brick and concrete buildings with very little thing. These were the traditional or the conventional sort of institutes earlier, and now the scenario is completely changed. We have the essential support of computers and internet, and these are branded as virtual institutes. And what institutes we are having, the institutes of tomorrow will soon be the institutes of today. The technology is changing so fast that although the brick and mortar institutes have gone into the background right at the moment, the virtual institutes, maybe in time to come, we'll have some different format of the institutes. The virtual institutes, they are essentially carrying on with virtual learning environment as this VLE or learning management systems. These are based on different sort of software and applications. Now, to take a more detailed look of the landscape of the institutes, like I said yesterday and today, the two columns here, they distinguish between all the facets of comparison. Educational delivery yesterday, that means the previous brick and mortar institutes, and today implies the virtual institutes. The delivery, earlier the focus was on delivery of instruction, and now it focuses on managing education. Not only delivery, but it is how effectively it is managed. And the brick and mortar traditional institutes, they were primarily government managed or funded. Now it's with the globalization of even education. Now privately managed institutes, self-financing institutions are coming up, and we find they are in competition with the government ones. Then the earlier the focus was on internal operations, so they were concerned only with the conduct of the courses of the scheme of studies. Now, in addition to the internal operations, the external oriented also, this marketing, they would like to establish themselves in the markets to be known as pioneers or leaders in their own setting. And public relations is an important aspect of it. There, we find that we all know that privately managed institutes, the public relations plays a very important part. Then earlier, healthy academic competition used to be there, and I will not say that it is not so healthy now. It is healthy, but here the situation now is more like a corporate business, where to outwit the other, that is to go ahead of the other institute at whatever the cost. They may whether it is fair or how they like to win only, place themselves in a winning situation. Then another aspect was the in-house resident management. Now it is external and remote management also. It's not completely resident sort of a course. And the management information system, it was earlier informal or absent in some cases. Now there's an overdrive of information in the virtual institutes. So the note at the bottom says that institute space has changed completely. It is similar to a corporate house in terms of operational efficiency, external environment management, and information processing needs. So, now, we all at the technical institutes are aspiring for excellence. We want to become world-class institutions and excel in our ventures. Now, this is a diagram which shows how this vision and mission, they are influencing the leadership, the management at the institute level. When they define their objectives, general objectives and specific objectives, and policies for implementation of the programs at the institute. And we have organs of the institute, means the departments. Program design is for the curriculum development, delivery of courses is the instructional process, and then evaluation. And if you see the box of resources, it is feeding all the all the departments of the conduct of the courses. And under resources, you'll find it is faculty, infrastructure, industry, and collaboration with networking institutions. So resources, without resources, nothing can proceed. Even in your own home, let us say, you want to have needs. What you need is, you need some vegetables and other material. There's some material will be required, and you'll have somebody to cook for you also. Human resources will also be required. So that sort of thing, it's, without resources, it is impossible to go ahead with any venture or any work assigned to you. Now we take a look at the definitions. I'm not using the term resource management right at the very beginning. I'm separating the two, and then maybe I'll combine the two to perceive what resource management is. How do you define resources? Everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy the needs of the system. The system here is the technical education system. Provided it is the three factors to be considered: technologically accessible. That means it should be whatever resources you point for. It should be possible for you to have access to the technology. Now, you can think of a situation in remote areas or tribal areas where internet connectivity may not be there. So it would be pointless for us to try and, in the initial phase, to any institute located in the remote areas, we could avoid, we could defer the decision with regard to advanced technological gadgets. Then economically feasible. Here also the cost sometimes becomes prohibitive, and we could, while planning or considering the resources, we could say that something which can be better learned and which is available at a very high cost, it can be better learned in the person's student's professional life. We need not go in for it immediately. We can at best expose the students to the field situation by an industrial visit or something or similar visit. whether it is through a video program or field visit. We can go ahead with that. And culturally acceptable means this is the local context, the place where the institute is located, and whether it is privately managed, government managed, such like institutes. For example, we have the minority communities. They are running some certain institutes. So for them, also, normally while planning the buildings for such institutes, the basic principle of architecture is form follows function. That means a hospital should depict, when you look at the frontal elevation of this building, it should be more relevant to healthcare. Similarly, education institutions, this should be for where studies can be carried out. And if it's a place of worship, it will have a different sort of elevation, or structure will be different there. So with these three conditions, whatever is available in our environment, so that we can go ahead and meet the goals and objectives of our institute. Now, we have just seen the definition of term resources. Now, definition of management. This is the act of coordinating the efforts of people. We have got the resources together, and management will mean how well you are able to organize all the resources so that they are optimally utilized and they are helpful in accomplishing the goals and objectives for which they have been provided. And not only that, they should be used efficiently and effectively. This is with regard to their impact on their target population of students. The learning process should be improved as a result of managing the resources. Clubbing the two together, you see what resources was and what management was. Resource management will imply managing all resources, and how to do that. This is a very considerable challenge, and it calls for the leader or the person at the helm of affairs to be professionally competent, and he should have a business acumen. He needs to make good judgments and quick decisions. And not only that, not only being a professionally competent person, he should be aware of the financial aspect of it. Awareness about the finances, ability to plan also, and knowledge of information technology, which will help him to improve his functioning, and excellent management skills, not only with the utilization of the infrastructure, but also dealing with human beings who are eventually the ones to carry out the resource management process. Here it is pertinent to refer to the lean principles of resource management. This is the 5S, as they call it, of a Japanese foundation on a lean foundation. These 5 terms, Seri, Seiton, Shiso, Shiketsu, and Shitsuke, these mean first sorting out and organizing the resources, simplify in second place so that they are visible and readily accessible. Sweep, shine means cleanliness. Shiketsu is standardized, that means adherence to the earlier 3, sorting out, simplifying, cleaning. And Shitsuke is sustenance, that means self-discipline, becoming a part of the culture of the institute. This is essentially a workplace organization and housekeeping system. And when applied in the true earnest, with the seriousness, when this principle is applied, the benefits in terms of productivity, quality of work, and morale of the people using that is tremendous. And this is not only application in exposing, identifying, eliminating of waste, but also even recycling is also possible using the 5S methodology. To get a clearer picture of these 5, you look at this, the interrelationship between the 5, sorting out the clearly distinguish needed items from unneeded and eliminate the latter. That means what is not needed should be weeded out or removed from the laboratories or the workshops or even the classroom. And straighten, next stage is to straighten, keep needed items in correct places to allow for easy and immediate retrieval. One should be able to, with a minimum of time, within a minimum of time, should be able to get whatever resources he requires for his instruction process. So they should be readily available to him. He should not have to waste time on looking for things which are sometimes misplaced or not easy to find out. The third is keep the workplace neat and clean. This is also very, very important in the sense that we need to imbibe this as a habit in the students of our institutes. Here I would like to share my observation at one of the institutes in Chandigarh. This is the Indo-Swiss Training Center. On a visit to that institute, I found that students, they have to work on the lathes with some tasks given to them. And around the lathe, an area is marked in yellow paint. The student, when he takes up the task, he is got the area cleaned out already for him. But after having worked on it, it is not only, his job is not only to carry out whatever turning or cutting job that he may be carrying out on the lathe itself, but later on to clean up the floor also within that marked out area in yellow with the yellow lines. That is his responsibility. So that when he leaves, he has to see that it is all clean and in the same shape as it was when he took the task in hand. So this sort of discipline, it makes the institute stand out against other ITIs or polytechnics, I would say. This is my impression of that very good institute. Then standardize not only the sorting out and the straightening or the shine by themselves, but you have a system whereby these are almost like office orders, so to say, that people have to keep resort to sorting out with equipment and resources and getting them readily available, and also keep the place neat and clean. And here also I will say that even in our country, the Prime Minister is emphasizing on the Swachh Bharat. This is also one step, a very important step to clean up the nation as such, of their habit of loitering the places of the public domain. Then last is sustaining, not only issue of office orders or through which you standardize the procedures, but sustaining means you have to see that this becomes an ingrained element of the character of the individuals working there. Students who come to you, the faculty and staff of the institute. So it's something like a second nature to them. They should be able to go ahead with it. Now, coming to the different types of sources for the system, for the technization system, essentially there are physical, human, and information resources. So there are others also, like finances. Without finances, you cannot have even physical or human or information. You need money to make provision for all these resources. Then energy in the context of the present scenario in the country where power shortages are order of the day, and this has to be ensured that if you want to carry out your programs effectively and efficiently, then energy source has to be uh, ensured. Continuous, uninterrupted supply of power should be there, and time management will be optimal use of time, so that we don't lose. Although time is a resource which you cannot readily measure in terms of money value, but it does mean a loss of money in terms of when you weigh out how much time, how many man hours are lost, and if it is not optimally utilized. So essentially, the three resources which are physical, human, and information resources. Now, take up the first one, physical resources. Physical resources, we normally think of these as capital resources, and essentially they are man-made, and they are natural resources, but man has pitched in to transform them into utility. Like on the land he constructs the buildings. Also, tapping natural gas or solar energy. So these are man has found a way to use these natural resources, and we say that physical resources are essentially man-made, but with the development of resources from the nature. Here, the distinct types of physical resources would be infrastructure, that is the land and buildings. So, where in terms of the classrooms, workshops, administrative buildings, then other requisite buildings also for co-curricular activities. Then we have technology, in terms of the equipment and machinery required for creating confidence as far as practical skills are concerned in the students. Then raw materials and consumables. Here also, these are also required for conduct of the laboratory experiments or experimentation purposes. And many more, not only these, but products that are made by man, examples of physical resources. I have only talked about these three with regard to the academic side of it. But for the co-curricular activities, promoting sports, listen, you need some sports equipment also. So likewise, consumables for games and other things, you need, say, shuttlecocks for badminton or whatever. Some sort of consumables or raw materials are required there. These are with regard to the physical resources. Now, what is the status? How do things stand at present as far as physical resources are concerned? With the help of the World Bank assisted project, earlier in the form of strengthening technician education, which was for the polytechnics of the country, and which went on for almost 20 years, from 1990 to about 2003. And now it is the for the engineering colleges in the form of technical education quality improvement program, TEQIP in short. With the help of these two projects, by and large, we have adequate office space, classrooms, workshops, etc. Those are very much there. And a lot of equipment, latest equipment has been procured. As a result of MODROP scheme, MODROP is a short form of modernization and removal of obsolescence. MODROP, modernization, ROB is removal of obsolescence. So state-of-the-art equipment has been procured and machinery also purchased, but there are some problems with regard to the installation of the equipment. There is some delay in the installation of the equipment, or the training of personnel to use that equipment has not been provided by the suppliers, and so that the things become operational. Then we have lack of maintenance in most cases. This is, I would admit, that we as Indians are very careless in this regard. We like to just close our eyes over, shut our eyes over the maintenance aspect. But it is important to give due weightage to this factor. Lack of, to carry out maintenance, periodic maintenance, whether it is daily, weekly, monthly, whatever the periodicity may be. Then inadequacy of raw materials and consumables, and underutilization of physical resources. In most institutes, you find that only for the time the classrooms are there, classes are held, the equipment is utilized. We do not consider if we can, in the process, by extension services and consultancy, if we can utilize, extend the time of utilization of the equipment, in addition to generating revenue for the institutes. Now, while planning for physical resources, whether it's planning for, let's say, buildings, planning for equipment for the laboratories, or the raw materials, consumables, etc., what thought needs to be given while at the planning stage? First thing to bear in mind is the norms and standards prescribed by All India Council for Technical Education. They have laid out norms for the size of the classrooms and the size of the workshops, laboratories, library. For each and every thing, they have laid out the norms and standards. Even so, if it is equipment, so how many students one set of equipment may be required. So these norms and standards, they have to be kept in mind, and depending upon your intake, you can work out so many sets of this equipment are required, and such and such size of building, and so many classrooms will also be required, based on the norms and standards. And utilization factor, this also, you need not have for each and every class, the resources could be shared also between the departments, and so that the utilization is more efficient. Spatial design and considerations. Here again, I will take you back to almost what the situation was about 50, 60 years back. Like we had hydraulics laboratories in my college, the Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh here. The laboratories, or that hydraulics laboratory, was something like 25 feet by maybe 70, 80 feet long, which is a lot area for. Now we have what are known as hydraulic benches, which were originally supplied for the first time in India. They were supplied by the Netherlands government to this institute, and Chandigarh. Now there are a lot many firms in India also where they are fabricating this hydraulic bench, which is the size of something like only by 4 feet by 3 feet, or 4 by 4, let's say, maximum. So one group of students can, it requires much lesser space for this laboratory. Instead of having that such a vast space of about 80 feet by 25 feet, we could do with only about, to say, 30 by 30. It is saving because land is very expensive. Rather, I'll say land is the most expensive resource in the present times. So instead of traditional laboratories, we could consider going in for saving of space. Or I'll another mention my experience on a study visit to the University of Rome. There, in the electronics laboratory, the equipment was stored on the walls, on the vertical space, and that was used both as a laboratory as well as a classroom. So these considerations, pedagogical considerations, spatial considerations and pedagogical considerations, they can play an important, they rather do play an important part in the planning of resources. sources of supply and cost. Now, again, it may not be while planning, somebody, supplier, he doesn't have, say, after sales service. We may not consider buying from him. And the cost also is also the prime consideration as far as purchasing equipment, but it's not always wise to go in for the lowest. So then you may not be sure of the quality of the resource that is being supplied to you. The use of resources from other systems, not only institutes, but supposing you have in the place where the institute is located, there are other organizations where you can take the students to show them some equipment which is used by them. So sources from other systems can be also considered for implementation or for planning of the resources. Optimizing techniques of space and equipment utilization. These also have to be kept in mind at the planning stage itself. We have seen the status, and we have seen the considerations of planning. Now, how to develop these resources? I will reiterate that for the time being, we are focusing on the physical resources. First is acquiring space and delineating it as per design for the various users. That is, supposing it's a case of a new institute to come up, you have to first, the stage will be to acquire the land for it. Once that is done, then get the plans prepared. Well, this is the academic area, or you may need some residential area for essential staff. So, as per the designs, you delineate on the ground that this is the area for this, and this is the area for the residential ones. Then constructing buildings and other amenities. That is the second stage after having acquired the land and demarcating it on the ground. Then you have the buildings constructed. The building is constructed, then you need to install the equipment that you procure. Acquiring, installation, and commissioning of equipment furniture as per design specifications. Then procuring consumables and raw materials. And once again, re-emphasizing that point, develop schedules for maintenance of physical resources. Otherwise, the life of that equipment or machinery will be considerably reduced if we don't pay heed to the periodic maintenance of the same. Now, we look at the different stakeholders of the technical education system. Can one of you interpret the diagram on the board? What do you understand from this? Could one of the participants try and explain to me what they understand from this diagram? What do you understand from this diagram depicted before you? The technical education system at the center and around it.
In the way of technical education, sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, in the way of technical education, how to go to the any one of the innovation, how to transfer in the industry or otherwise government through the education or otherwise academician, how to transfer the innovation to the government. This is the basic thing I understand in this picture.
You can see the arrows, they are two-way. All the cases, whether it is with the government or society,
Yes.
owners, academic administrators, industry, there's a two-way interaction.
Yeah.
Only, who would be the institutional owners? In case of government institutions, it is the government. Private, there's a private institution, it could be the private management. They'll be the owners of the institute. How about academic administrators? Who would be the academic administrators? A particular institute is, let us say, affiliated to a particular university. Now that will have academic control over the institute, is it not? Do you agree?
Yeah, sir. The academician is a.
If it's an autonomous institute, that is competent to award their own degree like IITs, then it is the institute itself. They will be the academic administrators as well. If it is an institute which is affiliated to a particular university, then the university specifies the curriculum, they conduct the examinations, so they are academic administrators overseeing the instruction process at the university. How about industry? Can you explain the two-way interaction between the system and the industry?
By the way of technical education, we will interact with the industry and the current scenario, what is going on the industry. We have to ensure that industry needs, we have to fulfill that. The both interaction maybe it will displayed, I think so.
That's very good. See, because after all, we with the technical education system, we are catering to the requirements of industry by producing the requisite manpower. Is it not? So industry also will be giving their inputs by way of providing opportunities for industrial training or by way of experts from the industry to uh, deliver specified topics at the that can be the contribution of the industry, whereas the system is feeding the industry with qualified manpower required by them. So they are different stakeholders of the system. Now, what are human resources? This, as the term implies, when you say human, it means living beings. It has got to do with the living beings. They are regarded as a very significant asset in terms of skills and abilities. And they are the ones who play a very dominant role in trying to or in putting in their efforts to see that their institute is ahead of the others in the academic achievements. And essentially, the human resources would rise off one, the faculty, who needs certain amount of technical supporting staff, administrative and account staff, and supporting services staff. Now, before I take up any saying, can somebody answer me what the supporting services staff? Who all would this be including? Who would be covered under supporting services staff? Can you identify one or two supporting services? Very
Good morning, sir. The peoples who assist the teaching community, it may be a librarian or a transport in charges,
right.
any other services which are related to the benefits of the education society.
Well,
Yes, yes, sir.
You see, supporting services, you said about library staff and all that, but
Yes,
that is also correct. In addition to that, some essential services that are required, like watch and ward staff. See, they have to be also put in charge, like chowkidars and maybe upkeep of the campus, the malis and gardeners, the scavengers to clean up the place every day. These are supporting services. And I'll take up now one by one these ones. The faculty is I rated as the most important amongst the four categories which I have mentioned. Any institute is known by the faculty that it has, because they are the ones who project the image of the institute. And here I want to share this particular definition by one Professor Hannah Gray, former president of the University of Chicago in USA. This definition simply is appealing to me. Faculty are not just professionals with a commitment to the profession outside the institution as well as to the institution. Not only that, they are recognized as a qualified engineer by the society, or they are doing their job in the institute as such of teaching, learning teaching process. But it further defines they are individual talents and intellectual entrepreneurs, demanding developers of the discipline. Means they are unique in themselves as far as the talent is concerned or the competence is concerned, and intellectual entrepreneurs means using their mind and ability, they develop their discipline further. I mean, whatever is the teaching, they can always think of newer ways to put the information across to students or involve them in the learning teaching process, who have in fact certain constitutional rights in the process of governance and who hold the most important authority which exists in an institution, that of making ultimate academic judgments. That is, he is, when a particular subject teacher is teaching, he or she has absolute authority in designing the course for delivery and then executing the same according to the plan that he or she has made. In short, they are instruments of furthering an institution's mission. Means they are the ones who carry the responsibility of making any institution a world-class institute or institute of excellence. Then the other resources, administrative human resources, head of the institution, the former director or principal. He is the topmost executive authority, and he is one both an academic leader and the person with executive responsibility and authority for managing the institution. Of course, the AICT sort of the norms for person to head the institution, technical institute, is a person having qualifications in engineering and technology. That is a requirement. No non-technical person can be the head of the technical institute as such. And senior administrators, we have senior administrators, a team of people who assist the head of the institution in managing the institution. They will normally be including senior academics and the heads of key service departments. Means thereby, that is the heads of departments of the different disciplines. They are also helping the director or the principal. Similarly, you may have an administrative officer or an accounts officer. They are also the ones who they are handling the key service departments. In addition, sometimes the heads of department, the faculty, senior faculty, they are made in charge of some co-curricular activities also. So that additional responsibility is also fixed on the people for discharging as senior administrators. The other staff covers technical support staff, that means laboratory technicians or demonstrators, and administrative account staff and support services staff, which I just talked about earlier. The other staff considers technical support, administrative accounts, and support services. Now, coming to the status, like we saw in the case of physical resources, we have said what are physical resources, and we said status of physical resources, and planning considerations, and development, like that. So similarly, now we come to the human resources, to know the status of human resources. There's a considerable faculty vacuum, and on an average, 30% vacancies exist in technical institutes. Here, under the project for the polytechnics from 1990 onwards to 2003, studies were carried out by the states at the best of the World Bank team, and they found that the period from the date of advertising a vacancy to the time of recruitment of the faculty, that period, in one case it was 6 months, and in the worst case it was 4.5 years. So right from 6 months to 4.5 years was being the so this aspect needs to be very much streamlined, so that whenever a vacancy arises or is likely to rise, some proactivity must be shown by the management or by the head of the institution to start the process of filling up the vacancy. Then lack of industrial training amongst or exposure among faculty. This again is an aspect. Most of the teachers or the faculty coming to the technical institute straight from the college or the institute to the teaching profession as such, and without any inputs with regard to the methodology of teaching, or without any industrial experience. Although many universities at present thrive, in one case like the university I know of, they have one full semester for industrial training. Whether it is 7th or the 8th semester, they say that one semester is dedicated for industrial training. And the other university like Kurukshetra University in Haryana, they have 6 weeks of industrial training. Around the time when we were students, and that time Punjab University, from where I graduated, they used to have a condition that the degree would be awarded only after the student has passed out of the college and taken up a job. He was given a job on the basis of a provisional certificate of having passed the examination. The formal degree was only issued only after 6 months he has completed successfully in the department or the job where he has joined. So such teachers, they were of better utility than freshers jumping into the field. Then staff development plans not formulated rationally. Things might have improved now, but around the time when I was at this institute about a decade back, in common parlance, it used to be that the teachers who were sent for training to this institute or elsewhere, they are normally the ones who are troublemakers in their own institute. So just to be rid of their troublemaking for that period of training, about 1 or 2 weeks, they were sent on training. So it is not a rational way of developing the staff development plans. Whereas rational would be the day the person joins the institute to his retirement, that should be chalked out, and the requirements of his job also be kept in mind while preparing the staff development plan. Another situation which is there is the professional development is not linked to the career development. That means rising vertically in the organization. He's not only developing himself professionally, acquiring higher qualifications or carrying out R&D work to be professionally developed. This is not linked to his getting promotion and rising higher in the vertical hierarchy. Then stagnation at different levels, killing motivation, enthusiasm, and commitment. If this is not linked to career advancement, then people become demotivated and are not very enthusiastic to do the task more in the spirit that they were earlier doing. Merited career is not given to good performance. This is also a situation in most of the institutes. Ad hoc, part-time, and contractual faculty not covered under start development. Under these projects, World Bank projects, they had said that till such time you are able to recruit the faculty and fill the faculty vacancy gap, you could go in for part-time or contractual faculty or ad hoc. Now, the colleges or the authorities, they don't want to incur expenditure on ad hoc days, that since they are not going to be with us on a regular basis, why should we incur expenditure on their training? But this is a lopsided thinking, and anyone who has to be, whether it's a short-term assignment or a job that you give him, so he must be first of all properly oriented to the system. Could be in the form of a 2 or 3 days program on orientation to this. In this respect, during my service career, I would cite the case of Punjab government. They had at one point of time recruited 53 lecturers for the polytechnics. And we had organized a 3-day program for them to be oriented, to tell them how they are placed and what is the expectation of them in the performance of their duties. So these orientation programs also are essentially required. Now, after the status part, the planning of the human resources, the job designed for individuals and teams, whether it's a team teaching to be carried out or individuals are to handle the subjects. So that designing of the job, so that you're able to identify the number of persons required and what level they should be and what qualifications. Identifying competencies for various jobs. Job aids for individuals and teams. Also, planning staff development, initial and in-service training programs. They say that you must have a 20% excess faculty to take care of somebody who goes on training, so the gap is not felt. And linking professional development to career development, I will talk about this. And another thing is recruitment criteria and procedure. I'll give you the picture under that project, but again, this has to be streamlined to a considerable extent so that the recruitment criteria is selection of persons is based on merit, and the time between your identifying the requirement of the faculty or the staff and the actual is being in position or in place, that is the minimum. Then development of human resources, recruitment of all categories of staff as per criteria laid down. Criteria means that the qualification experience, according to that they are recruited. Identifying gaps in knowledge and skills of teams and individuals. Once you know that the person, he in time to come will be required to teach a different subject or carry out. Like I'll take the case of civil engineering. We had a subject on public health engineering, which was essentially water supply and waste management. So from that offshoot came environmental engineering. There were no ready teachers, available for that in the initial stages with the qualification of environmental engineering. These people had to be deployed. Persons working in the civil engineering department. Similarly, for electrical engineering, people were deployed for taking up the task of teaching electronic subjects, which is now a discipline in itself. So identifying gaps in knowledge and skills, what is required, and then trying to develop these people accordingly so that they're able to fill in the gap. Organize initial and in-service training of personnel both within and outside the system. Not only initial training is required or induction is required, but training and retraining of for personnel both within and outside the system. Here again, I like to share one initiative which was taken by one at the head of the Technical Education Bureau in the Ministry, one Professor D.P. Agarwal. In one of the meetings in Chennai, he had in mind and he had drafted a proposal that all technical teachers will undergo 3 months industrial training or 3 months training in a span of 5 years. Every 5 years, 3 months. It could 3 months could be in one spell of 3 months, or it could be in 3 spells of 1 month each. So that scheme somehow never saw the light of the day. And but this is if it can mature and materialize at some point of time, it will be in the interest of both the student community as well as the technical institutes. Develop staff appraisal scheme. Prepare career development plans for each individual. Again, for right from recruitment to retirement, you prepare the different nature of jobs he is required to do at each successive stages. Major instruments of sustainable human resource development, recruitment, I just said, requirement and job profile that has to be prepared for the individuals. HR marketing, sometimes you have to identify, you will not get ready-made sort of staff or faculty for your institutes. You have to carry out labor market research and then get people around. Then deploy health management, the older employees considering their health considerations. You can adjust the timings in the institutes itself and deploy the persons concerned. Then development, encouraging continuing education, career planning, promoting individuals' responsibility and participation. This is to develop a person professionally so that enhanced. Retention is to keep the persons going and so that they are not demotivated and they want to quit the organization. So to retain the talent available to the institute, it should be emphasized. Then human resource marketing, image analysis and improvement. This is again, one thing is the student output coming out of the institute will speak for itself about the human resource or the faculty that you have. Right across the road here, there used to be what now it is known as Chandigarh College of Engineering and Technology. Earlier it used to be known as Central Polytechnic. Now it is known as CCET Diploma Wing. Earlier it was Central Polytechnic. Because of the faculty and the education of that center, this is way back in mid-70s, I'll say, there was a rush for people to go to Middle East for jobs on the polytechnics at that level, junior engineers or diploma level. And the moment a person said that he has studied at the Central Polytechnic Chandigarh, it meant almost 50% that he is selected at the time. This is because of the faculties or input and the utilization of resources at that center, which carried that image across, and the image was established in the world of work. Disemployment, exit interviews or placement. It's also in cases when somebody, some inefficient person is there, or somebody wants to quit on his own. So the exit interviews. Somebody who wants to quit on his own, you try to detain him, ask him what is the reason for it. So, then management leadership, participating in management objectives. This is normally to be followed in case of sustaining HRM, and assessment of superiors by the subordinate staff. The third source is information source. This is also important for development. And here, emphasis needs to be placed more on the currency of information. In case of technical institute, because the technology is changing so fast that it has to be updated periodically. And what sort of information sources do we require? First is the curriculum document. Curriculum is the detailed account of the courses of study. The scheme of studies, the scheme of evaluation. It's a comprehensive document in itself. These have to be updated very frequently, so that you are, your instruction in the technical institutes is commensurate with the requirements of the industrial scenario. Then instructional materials. Not only curriculum has to be updated, appropriate instructional materials also have to be developed and procured by the, either developed on their own or developed by certain other agencies. They have been procured for use in the educational setting. Then other academic and administrative information would pertain to, say, rules, regulations, guidelines, manuals, etc. So these are the information sources, essential information sources. Now, information sources. What are information sources? What are the information sources, and for whom are they? Now, the information sources can be print and non-print documentary resources and non-documentary resources, which provide information needed by stakeholders of technical education system. Now, can you tell me what can be the print and non-print documentary resources? Anyone from the group? What do you understand by print and non-print documentary resources?
Can you participate and reply?
Can you give me an example of print and non-print documentary resources?
Sir, no, sir. There is no idea about print and non-print documentaries, sir.
Okay. Well, print, as the word implies itself, is something which is in print form. And these could be the textbooks or laboratory manuals or even the assignment sheets used by the teacher. So, and non-print will be, which is not in the print form. Because here, documentary and non-documentary further are there, non-print. Whatever you may have in the form of a CD, it's not in, it's a printed form. So in the compact disc, if you have that information, that will be non-print documentary resources. And non-documentary sources could be your models and objects of realia. Models, of course, are to a particular scale. I mean, they're not the same size as the actual thing. Realia is a term which is used for actual size of the model or the particular equipment. For example, you say carburetor in the case of an automobile. That could be used also as a non-documentary source. So, which all these they provide information needed by the stakeholders of technical education system. For whom do we have this information? State government, departments of technical education, that is the directorates and boards of technical education, and evaluating agencies, the affiliating university or even let's say board of accreditation, and for them also information. Then we have the technical institute as such, the director, he requires certain bit of information, or that of the principal. The faculty, students, and staff, examiners, they also would like to have some information. So the information is required for the. Then user system, industry, parents, the public at large. Here again, I ask you, group, when you say public at large, can you give me an example of the information source required for that? Public at large. What information could they be requiring? See, you all have the prospectus, college prospectus, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Brochure or information brochure or prospectus, some people call it. It is required for the general public. Somebody wants to seek admission, they would want to know some more details about the institute. Public at large also, maybe the private institutions are doing this, placing advertisements in the papers. Those also are read by the institute and for general public. Different sources, as I said, reference and standard subject books, resource guides, handbooks, workbooks. In web directories, there are two sites, namely, for example, engineering resources and engineering case studies. Then you have technological resources also. These include intellectual property rights, cumulative experience in software, licensing, patents, copyrights, operations manuals, rules and regulations, academic, administrative. So these are different types of information resources which are required. I mean, see, it might be a tendency amongst us that I'm teaching a particular subject. I'm thinking that only what I require is the information source for the institute, but it is much more than that. It has to be for the administrators, for the college students and staff, and this thing, and other for the public also, and industry. Now, similar to the earlier two sources that we have talked about, status of information sources, there's somehow some lack of awareness or lack of planned effort to procure these or develop these information resources. Digitalization of libraries is not yet accomplished in many institutes. Inadequate software, resistance to adoption or innovations. This is something which was stressed upon by the World Bank team under the projects almost 2 decades back, but it is yet to see being implemented fully across board in the technical institutes. In other cases, also libraries not well equipped in terms of journals, books, reference standard books. Database pertaining to students, faculty services are not properly maintained and updated. Generally, underutilization of available resources. If you keep a record of even utilizing the library facilities in your institute, you find that it is not utilized, the facilities are not utilized to the extent that they should be. The planning for information resources, you identify user profile for information. User profile means, like director, what would he want to know? Maybe his information might pertain to the courses which are being offered, the intake, then the faculty position of the at that level, whatever information requires. So user profile, you have to identify what information he will read, and while planning, you have to then develop that, prepare that information accordingly. Identifying people and resource systems for design. Who are the people and which are there, from where you can get the, you are unable to design the structured information resources or procure them from outside sources. Infrastructure available and to be developed. For this, when you want to have your focus is on utilization of the information resources available by the students, and you want to have in your existing library some space to be earmarked where you can construct or through additions and alterations, you construct some study carrels where students can sit down in the privacy, in their own privacy, they can refer to the information sources. Support services needed for effective use. That means some attendance required for issuing the equipment or the resources. Interaction of human resources and information sources. This also has to be kept in mind while planning for the information source. Now, development of information sources. You identify categories of information sources for groups of users from the user profile. Earlier in the planning stage, we said we define the user profile. So from user profile, you identify and categories of what sort of information will be required, whether information is pertaining to the administrative side or the academic side. So that has to be separated out. Prepare information resources in appropriate format for all categories of users in print and non-print forms. So then it is after having identified the categories of information, then prepare the information sources. Whether you have to, you are developing a workbook, the faculty is doing it, or you are procuring it from outside. What a print and non-print format you can go in for enabling it to the students. Develop criteria for validation and refinement of information. So, as at the very beginning, in the first frame on information resources, I had mentioned that the currency of the information is of vital importance as far as technical issues are concerned. So, here to remain current or concurrent and updated, the validation and refinement of information resources is also very important, and periodically it must be taken up for refining of to make it enriched. Now, we have talked about the three resources individually and discussed so far the status and planning considerations and development of the three types of sources. Now we take a little more closer look at the source management of these sources. If you see the interaction between these three, the quality, cost, and delivery, the continuous improvement is needed, and the factors to be kept in mind are the quality of the sources, not only equipment, but the quality of human resources would mean the quality of the faculty and other staff. Cost, that it's not prohibitive, and delivery effective, so that students, the main stakeholders, you are giving them value for the money for things. AICT norms and standards emphasize the importance of adequate resources. These guidelines, as I said in the very beginning about AICT norms and standards, they emphasize that all resources must be procured, and then things, the courses should be started at the institute. Now, resource management is efficient and effective. The two terms used here: efficient and effective development of an organization sources in the most efficient way possible. And this is through, here the watchword when you say resource management, it is optimal utilization. Means the resources are used to the maximum at the lowest cost. So that the goals of the organization, they are reached and attained. Now these resources can be tangible. Tangible means something which can be measured in terms of money value, and some intangible. Now here they are shown some tangible resources, facilities, then equipment, financial resources, information technology, then human resources, labor. These are the tangible, that means they can be measured in terms of money value. Whereas there are other non-tangible in the form of ideas. Like you could have functional ideas and non-functional ideas. Giving evaluation data, that could be a functional because that is, comes from somebody about evaluation data, somebody furnishes that. It is a non-tangible. Similarly, non-functional will be dropping a hint. You're not giving the total lesson, you just drop a hint in the form of an idea, and that becomes, that is classified as non-functional resource. Now, optimization of these resources. First, the physical, increasing space and equipment utilization through multiple shifts. This is one way of doing it. That means you have, instead of one shift of the institute being run, you could have it in two shifts, increase spacing. Then streaming layout of laboratories and minimizing breakdown of equipment through proper maintenance. This is also already I emphasized the importance of maintenance. So streamline layout of laboratories. That means the layouting should be such that the equipment of breakdown also is a minimum. Sharing of common equipment by different departments and laboratories. Substituting costly equipment by simulation for concept teaching. Not that every time you have to go in for purchase of equipment. So optimally, you can by simulation you can avoid the expenditure, high expenditure. Utilizing community resources for on-the-job training. Some things which are better learned at site. If you sort of trying to create those things, situation in the laboratory, we could take them for field visits and show the students what is being done in the field. Reducing space requirement through miniaturization of equipment. This I give the example of hydraulic bench. So there again, you reduce the requirement of space and making use of vertical space of storage. Again, I mentioned about the electronics laboratory in the University of Rome in Italy. Putting equipment to community use and generating resources. This point also, optimizing, you can carry out some consultancy work for the society or for the industry, and in the process, utilize these resources beyond the academic requirement of the college or the institute. And in this process, you're not only utilizing more of its equipment and facilities, but you're generating revenue. And from the revenue itself, the persons who are directly carrying out the work of an extension consultancy, they can receive a motivation by getting a slice of the revenue. Optimization of human resources. Faculty and heads of department is used for functions cannot be delegated to human resources. That means the faculty and or the academic people should be involved only in planning and managing instruction, curriculum design and development. So the only academic activity as far as possible. And reducing direct involvement of faculty in routine activities by assigning these to the supporting staff, that delegating authority so that the staff can carry out such certain activities. Using faculty's time effectively and optimally, reaching out to maximum number of students at any point of time for thinking process such as planning, generating resources, management. So here the emphasis is that the you delegate some works which can be delegated to the low staff, but the time of the faculty is not lost in routine activities. They should be concerned only with the academic side of maybe curriculum design, development, or planning instruction, or then trying to see that students also develop certain competencies. Then optimization of information resources, promoting virtual learning environment and technical institutes. This can also lead to optimization of the information resources. Developing and providing students well-designed self-instruction resources, program textbooks, laboratory manuals, handouts, etc. Establishing learning resource centers with facilities for self-study and adequately equipped for acquisition, storage, and quick retrieval of instruction sources. These last two, one is program text, whereby the student he reads a certain text part of it, then he answers certain questions. It's the program to from one step to the other, and this is trying to optimize on the information resources that will be available to him. And similarly, we have mentioned about the study carrels, learning resource centers with facilities for self-study and adequately equipped, so that if a person wants to look up a particular CD or any video program, he can go to that study carrel and by himself, after getting the equipment and the material issued, he can study on his own. Now, action plan for physical resources, high priority when you drawing up an action plan for physical resources, high priority for modernization. That means weeding out what is obsolete and going in for modernization. Creation of depreciation funds, so that you do not require exorbitant funds at the end of it, like when you may need more money. So have a depreciation fund which keeps on getting built up, and with the time you are able to buy latest equipment. Norms and consumables, norms of consumables and maintenance, developing national norms and the periodic review, enhancing norms for experimentation, innovation, and consultancy services. These are the points to be kept in mind while drawing up of the physical resources. Resources plan, simplified recruitment procedures. I said, to fill that gap of, say, by average 30%, it is essential that we must have this, the moment a person leaves or is likely to leave, you have somebody to replace him, or, so that the gap is not filled. Separate teacher faculty recruitment boards. This is also suggested also that you can have separate boards, recruitment and faculty. Increasing retirement age, so that re-employment of faculty, particularly in case of disciplines, shortage of faculty, then we can re-employ them on contractual basis even after retirement. Improve salary structure and career profiles for teachers. This will be a motivating factor in making them do their best. For information resources, action plan, scientific design, infrastructure for use, networking, and state policy support. These are required for scientific design. Means that, as we had said earlier, so the category of people, what information you require, you identify the profile, user profile, and from there identify the categories of information required by him or her. Then infrastructure for use. You can't. You have to have some sort of infrastructure for using the information sources. Maybe in the form of library, maybe study carrels or separate enclosures where students can sit and work. Networking with the institutes within a closer vicinity, and state policy support. That means this the government or the management should support any innovations or new ideas which can be embedded. Then foundation for success of the management resources. First is raising the profile of technical qualifications. That is, when you specify the qualifications for the recruitment of people, you see that the latest, the highest qualification qualified, highly qualified people are inducted into the system, not only at the faculty level, but even at the lower levels of supporting staff level also. And increase awareness in changing circumstances and demands of industry. In many cases, the industry is well ahead of the thing, and they translate R&D activity into the manufacturing process. So there, you have to be aware of what changes in the field of work, and improve teaching practices. Their latest techniques of teaching, whether it could be through group work or teamwork, or through self-study. You can this has been followed not recently, but for considerable time. It has been in vogue now. Self-study techniques. Increase contact interaction with certifying authorities, with the people who hold degrees. Certifying authority means whether it is the NBA, Board of Accreditation, or the affiliated university. You contact with, have a periodic or ongoing interaction with those people. Include participation in technical institutes within support networks. That means group of institutions could take up a lot many activities together and carry out the management of resources to their advantage, so that you are not spending on everything that is required. You are, by participation with each of those activities, you are able to utilize whatever is available with them also. Increase use of virtual learning opportunities and involving stakeholders also is required. Implementing management resources. First stage is the resource inventory. Is whatever keep taking stock of what resources are available, not only physical, even human or information. First stage will be the resource inventory. Second is the development of resources, further what more are needed in addition to what the inventory says, what additional resources are needed. Then planned maintenance. This is the third time I'm emphasizing now this planned maintenance. Not only equipment, but even when I apply it to human resources, it is, you say planned maintenance would imply that it is a retention of the competent people. Resource utilization, so maximum utilization at the minimal cost, and data for evaluation. How would you evaluate all these resources, whether it is physical resources, human resources, or information sources? How evaluation? So these are essential 5 stages of implementing any system of managing resources in the technical institutes. Need for evaluating management resources. Take another 5 minutes. Need for review, revising norms and standards. Inadequacy in qualitative and quantitative terms, that is with regard to category of resources, 3 different resources. Inadequacy in qualitative terms and quantitative terms, in terms of numbers as well as quality. Changes needed in strategies for procuring, developing, maintaining resources. These are the points which are kept in mind for evaluating the different resources. Utilization index for various types of resources, and data for designing optimization strategies. So these are essentially some of the. Now, meeting the challenge of resource management, it requires a new way of thinking, training in new methods, leadership and commitment at all levels. Implementing them is just to do it. We need to do more than we talk, and we learn by doing. Improvements don't have to be expensive. Sometimes it can be, a solution is most inexpensive at times. So, 3 situations I am depicting here. In any workplace, this is a third-class workplace. where necessary and unnecessary items are mixed together in the same workplace. You can see how jumbled up the situation is. The things are littered around on the floor also, and the tables are also, full of equipment and other things. So this is as a third class workplace. A little improvement and a second class workplace. Necessary and unnecessary items have been separated within identified work areas and for inventory. Working area, including inventory. So you can see, if you compare this situation of a third class workplace to a second class workplace, this gives a better, more neat and clean sort of scenario, which goes in line with that lean principle, Japanese lean principle foundation. Here is first class workplace. Only necessary supplies, tools, and items are stored in the work environment. Rest, you can see, it's all neat and clean, and minimal space on the table is utilized for placing the equipment. So our effort should be, when utilizing the equipment, to ensure the following of those 5 sort of tenets of the Lean Foundation Japanese. Now we have the Government of India initiative for resources, 12th plan scheme for expansion and upgradation of 200 state engineering institutions. The idea here is to give a one-time grant to the 200 state engineering institutions in the country. One-time grant to institutions to start building up the resources. Where the scheme is already seeded, there it is to initiate some and promote quality where it is not seeded, and initiate where it is not seeded. One-time grant ensure all these quality now that these are able to get the best of resources, whether it is equipment or even buildings or whatever. They are giving one-time grant under the 12th plan scheme, so that they are also able to have quality resources for the benefit of the students. The last word, remember, management resources in the context of technical education system concerns both the individuals and their employers. It is not simply a question of better infrastructure or best of human resources in isolation, but success lies in the concerted efforts made to utilize optimally and efficiently all the resources at their command towards the achievement of the missionary goals of the system. That's all. Thank you. Any questions or points of discussion? I would be only glad to answer.